Go ahead and get started.
Good
I am
morning.
going to ask everyone, let me turn my camera on so you can see me. If I can,
Good morning. Good morning.
where am I? Okay. So good morning, everyone. See some new names, some names that are new to our sessions. We'd like to welcome you all to our Wellness Wednesdays. I'm Sonja Davis. I'm a County Extension Agent, Family Community Health with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. And this morning, we also will have Lora Jorgensen. She's on. She can introduce herself. She's waving. And we have a WIC intern. Her name is Mary Reyes. So she's with us for this week. And I think all the interns know that when they come here, we're going to put you to work like you're part of the staff. So this month, June 1st is hurricane season. So we thought that we would dedicate this month to disaster preparedness. I would like to say today we're going to discuss hurricane season preparations, and
Tracy.
Laura's going to go really in depth about managing your food safety during the freeze. We got so many calls and emails about, is it safe to eat the food after my freezer? I didn't have electricity for 3 days. So she's going to talk to you about this, determining when it's safe to still eat the food. Next, on the 23rd, we're going to have Camille Hicks, who's going to share with us things that you can do now. She works with individuals in helping them to understand what documents you need to have in a safe place so that, knowing where your insurance policies are, having a home inventory, taking pictures of important items in your home. So she's going to discuss that. And if you all know our coworker, Shannon Deeks, who's our ag agent, um, when you don't have electricity, you're not able to cook in the home, he's going to share with us some grilling tips. And summer is here. Everybody likes to get outside and grill. And it's best if you're having family gatherings to have things outside. So he's going to share with us how to prepare the grill, start the fire, and also meat selection and selecting those perfect marinades for beef, pork, chicken, and even your vegetables. So that's this month. Also, I forgot to share with you all that during this month we are also we're part of a grant, and we are hosting two mental health first aid trainings. So it's like when you go to a class for CPR first aid, you know what to do to help a person who may be choking, or you have to administer first aid or CPR to them. So this mental health first aid helps you to identify when a person is in a mental health crisis, and you're able to assist them and refer them. You know where to refer them. So our first mental health first aid training for youth, for individuals who work with youth, and most of you all do work with youth, which is interesting. So mental health first aid training for those who work with youth will be June the 22nd. So this is I think it's like a 7 hour course, but you take 2 hours of self study, and then you're going to get on a training like this for about 5 hours. Like I said, this is free. And then we have the mental health first aid training adult. So that's for adults who want to be able to assist other adults. And that one is the next day, June 23rd. You are only able to take the youth or the adult. You can't take both. So if you are interested in those, you can call our office or check our Facebook page, and we will provide you with that information. Any questions before we get into disaster preparedness? Okay, I love seeing everyone's faces on here. So if you're not muted, would you go ahead and mute and we have some drilling outside. I hope you all can hear that. But I'm going to turn it over to Mary, and Mary is going to discuss a few items. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mary.
Okay, so in this session, we're going to discuss preparing for an emergency or disaster. foods to have on hand, and keeping those foods safe during the emergency or disaster. So although this program may appear to be targeted towards those counties that are along the Gulf Coast, emergencies and disasters can happen anywhere. And it's important to be prepared for any type of emergency, whether it's a hurricane, fire, flood, or outbreak of an illness. So think H1N1 or more recently COVID, or any other type of disaster, like the unexpected ice storm that we had earlier this year. I never thought in a million years I'd see something like that here in Texas. Many people were calling it snowmageddon or the snowpocalypse. So that was something real serious and unexpected. So first thing we need to do is prepare. It's very important that we make preparations for an emergency or disaster. One way to prepare is to assemble a kit that contains enough supplies that allow you to take care of you and your family for at least 3 days. So in areas that are more prone to hurricanes where electricity and water might become disrupted, you may want to consider having supplies for as long as 7 to 10 days. The contents of your kit should be tailored to the needs and size of your family. So everyone's kit might be a little different. And those of you with pets, don't forget about your fur babies when preparing for emergency or disaster. So include their supplies, food, water in your kit as well. Okay, so what should be in a disaster kit? So some supplies to consider above are water, food and utensils, extra clothing, a first aid kit, emergency items such as battery operated radios, flashlights, batteries, garbage bags, baby wipes, and toilet paper, and some special needs items such as diapers, baby formula, over-the-counter medications, prescription medications, pet foods, and supplies. Now, can y'all tell me what are some items not listed here on this slide that you think should go in a kit?
Feel free to unmute. Miss Jennifer, I think you're speaking, but we can't hear you. You're muted.
How about your medications? Oh, there it is. I see it.
But it's not a problem to repeat it. That bears repeating.
Okay.
A hand-operated can opener.
Yes, we're going to talk about that. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Something to charge your cell phone.
Yes. Yes, we talked about that. Are you going to discuss that later?
Yes.
Okay, she's going to discuss that later. But thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Ms. Dolores. Anyone else? So just think back to a snow bit or the winter freeze. Is there something that you said when hurricane season, or if this ever happens again, I'm going to have this? Is there anything that you told yourself? Miss Esther?
What about candles and matches?
Yes. Yes. Yes, and know where they are.
Yes.
Yes, that's a good one. That we don't think about matches, but yes, candles and matches. Yes, and you can buy those little clicker things from the Dollar Tree. If you don't feel comfortable with matches, you can buy those little clicker things from Dollar Tree. Miss Sorensen, I see your hand up. You can unmute. You're muted. Miss Sorensen, you're muted. Okay, there you go.
Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I often wonder, I live alone and I have various personal items in different areas. And if there's time, how does one gather up their eyeglasses, if they wear tinctures and hearing aids, and their purse with all their ID? I mean, these are not things that you duplicate. How do you have time to get those together?
So, Ms. Sorensen, the best thing that I can say is to have all of these items in one place. If it's in your bedroom, in the top nightstand drawer, just making sure that you place all of those items, knowing where they are and putting them all in a similar place. Some people have large Ziploc bags, like the 2-gallon bags, and they place all of their important documents inside of there. So if those are some items that you're speaking of, I think the best thing to do is to make sure you place those in a place that is easily accessible and you're going to remember. And Ms. Dolores, I think your hand is up. You have something to share. And one thing about this, I don't want you all to feel like we know everything. This is a collective group and we teach one another. So Ms. Dolores, please share.
I didn't see cash money.
Yeah.
Really good.
Thank you.
Really good. And Ms. Sorensen, our next presenter on the 23rd, she goes into more detail on those types of things. That's her specialty. So please have that question on the 23rd if I didn't explain it.
I will. Thank you.
Yes, cash money. That is a really good one. Okay. If nothing else, we're going to go to the next slide.
And then before this presentation, Sonja and I were discussing, some things we might want to add to our kit. So Sonja mentioned entertainment. You want to keep yourself, or if you have kids, entertained. I have a son, he's going to be 2 in September. So if I don't keep that boy busy, I'm in big trouble. So, coloring books, balls, my son loves bubbles, toys. Another thing someone mentioned was a way to charge your cell phone. So if you don't have power in your house, know that you can charge your cell phone in your car. So have a car charger for the cell phone, but please make sure that, especially if your car is in that garage, to either remove your car from the garage or open your garage door before you turn that car on. Okay, we want to avoid that, carbon monoxide poisoning. Another thing too is we want to gas up our car. We want to get gas for the generator, but make sure that it is always stored in an approved container for gasoline. Okay. So now we're going to talk about food and water needs during emergency situations. So we always want to try to eat well to maintain our strength. Having adequate nutrition and water, of course, is very important to do that. So when possible, you want to try to eat a variety of foods to help get in those nutrients your body needs. And at the very least, try for at least one well-balanced meal per day. Taking a multivitamin might be another way to go, but just make sure that it has no more than 100% of the daily values. And then when it comes to fluid intake, maintaining hydration is so important. A person can live for several weeks without adequate food, but without water or fluids, death can easily happen in just a matter of days. So again, very important to drink enough fluids to maintain your hydration status.
Okay, so now I get to speak. So it's recommended that you have food and water for at least 3 days on hand. And if you're sheltering in place, be it that it's a hurricane or severe weather, then you want to plan for as long as 7 to 10 days. And it sounds like a lot, but really it's not. It's always you want to plan for the unexpected. So during emergencies such as natural disasters, safe drinking water can become scarce or even contaminated. And we saw this in February when communities were unable to drink their community water for days and even weeks. And I know some communities are still not able to drink their water. So making sure that you have safe water supply is important. And when it comes to food for your family, remember to always plan for the worst case scenario. If you have no refrigeration or no power, what would you and your family eat? So I'm going to ask the question now. Just think back to February when some people lost electricity. What did you and your family eat? Anyone can answer.
I had to queue for Burger King or McDonald's. It wasn't easy at all.
It wasn't easy.
I ate a lot of tuna fish.
Yes. Tuna, the little tuna is, yes, something that you don't have to cook. You can definitely just eat it out the can if needed. Miss Dorothy, you have an answer?
Yes, as I had a lot of canned beans, the beanie weenies.
Yes.
I had a lot of those, and I had cheese.
So I think we lost electricity, but luckily we had gas. So my family, we ate really well because I was cooking like I was Oh, I cooked more during that time that I normally cook, and I was exhausted. But I think, if they ate good, then they would leave me alone. Which was good because, everybody was happy they ate really well. But I just had a few things here, little snacks that I have on hand, and I'll share those a little later. But thank you all for that. Let me see, did I get everything here? So water, I discussed water a few minutes ago, but a lot of times you don't understand how much water you need on hand. So it's recommended that you have 1 gallon of water per person per day. And that amount of water should cover your fluid needs as well as your hygiene needs. So remember, and this is the minimum of 1 gallon per person per day. So if you have a family of 4 and you want to plan for at least 3 days, then for a family of 4, you're going to need about 12 gallons of water in total. Keep in mind that individuals with special needs, like if you have medications, a pregnant person or a nursing mother, elderly or children, then you may require more. So that 1 gallon per day is really the minimum amount. And also don't forget your pets. Your pets need water just like the humans do. And also during the summer when it's hot, you may need to have extra water on hand. So that 1 gallon is really a minimum amount. And remember that water can become scarce or contaminated during situations like disaster or emergency. So don't wait till the last minute to start, collecting your water. Like right now, we know June 1st was the beginning of hurricane season. And I hope that everyone has already started kind of collecting water. When you go to the store, get an extra case of water or 2 extra cases, depending on how many people are in your household. So don't wait, because as soon as it's on the news that there's a hurricane out there brewing, the shelves clear out. So go ahead and start right now collecting your water. And Mary said this, but one can only live for a few days without water. We need water. Okay. And
can I say something about the water also?
Yes.
We had some problems with the no water here and busted pipes and everything else. So we were able to use on our outdoor storage. We have these, what do you call it, rain barrels? The rain barrel water we were able to use to flush our toilets.
Yes.
Because we didn't have any water at all. And so that at one time they were frozen. Can you believe that?
Oh God.
The 50-gallon thing was frozen, and then we thawed it out and used that water because the water supply was cut off.
That's a really good point. If you collect water like that, then it's not safe for drinking.
Right?
But it is safe for flushing water. And if like summer months like this, if you collect outdoor water in those containers, make sure you cover it so that it doesn't collect mosquitoes.
Yes.
But that's an excellent point. Thank you for sharing, Edna.
And we have a screen. It has a screen and it's hooked up to the water spouts. We have 3 of those units. And right now they're full because we've had so much rain.
Oh, yes.
So yes.
Yes, we have. But thank you so much for sharing.
Yes, very helpful.
So there are 2 ways to set aside and supply water for you and your family. And the first we know is the easiest way. Like I said, just going and purchasing water. Another way is once you buy the amount of water that you need, how to store it. So there are appropriate ways that you can store your water. Store it in a room, store it in a room temperature room, like cool room, and off the floor. And it should be at least 6 inches off the floor, out of sunlight and away from harmful chemicals such as gas, your cleaners and your bleaches. And you want to, you know, I think the thing that stood out for me here is I have water, but I have it on the floor. So we had a conversation today about how it should be up off the floor. So if you can, raise it up off the floor. And also, water has a best by date on it, but according to the International Bottled Water Association, you can drink the water. It's safe to drink it after that best by date. And it does. It has a best of use by date on there. So don't be alarmed or think that you can't drink that water after that date. You can still drink it. So just in your homes right now, where, if you have water, where do you store your water? Because we know that the garage is not a safe place, because we know how hot it is in the garages. So where do you have your water stored?
The pantry.
The pantry, yes. Mine is stored in my pantry also. And like I said, I need to figure out a way to get it up off that floor. I think your hand is up, Miss.
In the washroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw my it's gallon, you know, this one you get from like Kroger or from Walmart. I put them in the pantry.
Okay, that's good. And I like that you said the gallon, because you don't always have to buy the water bottle, but those gallons, those are really good to have on hand. And I saw someone else's hand up, Miss Jennifer and Miss Dorothy. Miss.
Yes, I have a room that I store mine in up off the floor.
Oh, good.
I have a shelf, and I like to get the gallon water because you can cook with that.
Yes, as opposed to opening up several bottles.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, Miss Dorothy? No,
Yes.
someone else's hand was up. Miss Jennifer. I can't see I can see like the top of your head. Miss Jennifer?
Miss Sorensen has her hand up.
I know.
I have a spare bathroom in my home, and I use the bathtub in that for my disaster storage. If I have to get in the tub during a tornado warning or anything, I have an alert, and I call them and tell them to check on me from time to time, because if a tree falls on the house or something, they couldn't find me.
Oh.
So I'm ready in that way. And then the cat and I can go in there, and we have water and food and a toilet.
That's really good planning, Miss Sorensen. Really good planning, especially if you live alone, like you said. That's really good. Okay. So,
Excuse me, what will happen if you put your gallon water on the floor? What would happen?
So the only thing that we could determine is like if you have pests, not saying anyone has pests, but we were just thinking I think it's a food safety practice. Like in restaurants, people who work in restaurant settings know that you can never have anything directly on the floor. In the freezer, in the pantry, it has to be, I think, 6 inches off the floor. It's a food safety practice. But I mean, you do what's going to work for your home, but it's recommended. And that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. We had a discussion about that this morning. Great question.
I was gonna say, it also helps so that you won't have to be bending over all the time, constantly bending over.
True. Okay. So now someone? I want everyone to ask their questions.
Yes, I have a comment.
Okay.
And if you put the water on the floor, suppose your house floods.
Yes.
And that water will be there, and it's going to be unusual because they're going to be contaminated.
Yes, ma'am. And that's one of those reasons why it's a food safety practice. Thank you all. We're having great conversations today. Okay, so now, other than another option to store water when you don't have access to, let me go to the next slide. When you don't have access to bottled water, then another option is to store tap water, like water out the faucet. So if you decide to store tap water, make sure that you're using food grade containers. And that term, the food grade, means that the container will not transfer or leak non-food chemicals into the water. You can purchase food grade containers from sporting goods stores, camping supply stores, or like large discount stores. But if you choose to store water in these, make sure that you sanitize with a bleach solution before using. And we have the solution on the slide. Is sanitize the container by mixing 1 teaspoon of unscented household bleach with 1 quart or 4 cups of water. And you pour that sanitizing solution in the container, shake it really good, making sure that it comes in contact with all the surfaces inside. And then you rinse it. You leave it in there for about 30 seconds. You pour the solution out, you rinse it with water, and you let it air dry. Now, if it's a really large container, like the one on the screen, then you know that you're gonna need more. So you would use 4 teaspoons of bleach to 1 gallon of water. And you do the same. You shake it all around to make sure it touches all the surfaces, wait about 30 seconds, pour it out, rinse it with water, and let it air dry. And once you fill the container up with water after it's dried, you still wanna put it in a room that's cool and away from direct sunlight, off the floor, and away from those harmful chemicals. And you can keep this for up to 6 months. So this is just one way, other than bottled water. This is another way to have safe water on hand. And you're gonna see that the wording at the bottom of the screen, get your water before a disaster happens. Now, okay, question?
You said keep it for up to 6 months. Does that mean keep the water or keep the container?
You can keep the water in that clean container for up to 6 months.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So these are some other, some people always want to say, well, I want to use a glass bottle, or I want to recycle a plastic milk jug. So these are just items. Glass bottles can break easily, so they're not recommended. Milk jugs or cardboard juice milk boxes. It's difficult to get everything out of those, and you don't want to get sick in the midst of this. So if it's not cleaned out, bacteria can grow. So do not use milk jugs or cardboard juice boxes. And also your plastic soda bottles, they can be used, but they are going to have to be washed with hot soapy water, rinsed thoroughly, and then sanitized with the bleach solution, 1 teaspoon of per quart of water. So remember, these are not the most ideal. We definitely know not the glass and not the milk jugs, but if you have to use anything, use the plastic soda bottles, but you're gonna have to clean them, wash them first, and then sanitize. But remember, get your water before a disaster happens. So emergency food supplies. We're just gonna shift a little, but before we shift, I do wanna bring up some things that we have not discussed today, but you want to, if you live with other people in the home and a disaster happens, you want to have a plan in place. You want to have like an escape plan. You know, if the house catches on fire, God forbid, everyone should know, get out the house and go down the street and, you know, go to a neighbor's house. Have a plan in place. You know, if the house catches on fire, we're going to 2 houses down to Miss Rosie's house. So everyone knows, escape and go there and wait. You know, you're not running around the house trying to see if Billy got out. You know, escape and go to that place. A meeting place is so important. And then have a method for the family to communicate. If you get out, then, you know, call Aunt Susie. Everybody calls Aunt Susie to let her know that they're okay. So there's one part to having a disaster kit. That's important. But you also need to have a disaster plan. Make a family plan. Especially if you live alone, Ms. Sorensen, have a plan in place so that your family knows where you are. And those are things that you can start practicing now in case you have young children, grandchildren, or adult children. Just start practicing now. And if you want more information about that, I have some items that I can send you. So now I'm going to switch back over to emergency food supplies. There are two ways that don't close the door. There are two ways that you can put together an emergency supply of food. One is to buy your kits already assembled, and the other is to make your own kit. I'm really picky, so I don't think I will be buying a kit that's already assembled. I'm sure those cost more anyway. So I think the most affordable one would be to make my own kit and make your own kit. And here are some items to have in your kit. Let me turn my camera on. So you have your protein bars, your fruit bars. Mary mentioned baby formula, dried and canned fruit. I'm not going to read all of these, but these are things to have on hand. And I'm laughing because we had a discussion earlier. So I am a true snacker. I have to walk because I love to snack. So these are like some items that I would have on hand, like have these nuts, and you can buy these at the Dollar Tree. Just go start stacking up right now. If you go to Dollar Tree or any store, just have these nuts. Nuts are a great source of protein, which is going to help you to stay full longer. So nuts, little peanut butter, crackers. You see, I'm a true snacker. I sit in my office, and when I'm stressed, and in moments like this, you are stressed, so comfort food is on that list. You want to have your comfort foods. These are little tuna crackers. So these are little things you can buy right now and just have those on hand. They come with a little spoon, a little thing of crackers, and a little tuna. And they have all types of flavors. This is a Chipotle one. So this is one to have on hand. Popcorn can be really inexpensive and just a little comforting snack. And you buy the bags at like Dollar Trees or something. They have really huge bags for like $1. It's just a comfort food. You see, I'm a snacker. And something we don't think about are condiments. If you make a sandwich, you can have a sandwich with mustard on it. And then the next time you can have a sandwich with some mayo on it. And if you go through the drive-through anytime, do not throw these away. Put these in a Ziploc or some type of container so that, you always have a bag of condiments. Always. I have ranch dressing, ketchup, mustard, spicy mustard, whatever my son and my husband, whenever they go through a drive-through or something, they know, do not throw those condiments away. Okay. Anyone else have items that they would add to this list? I will stress, and Mary and I were laughing, but now is not the time to start, when you're building your kit, now is not the time to start experimenting with new foods. If you have never tried something and you see it, I would just ride on the side of cautious and not buy it, because if you buy it and your family is not going to eat it, it's a waste. So, now it's not the time to start experimenting with different foods. That's me. That's just my advice. Now, don't forget your utensils. I think someone said earlier about the manual can opener. You would be surprised. I work with 4-H kids a lot, and it was so funny. We were having a contest, and they did not know how to use the manual can opener because they're so used to going to use the electric ones. So make sure that your kids, or make sure you know how to use the manual can opener. That's important. And then having paper towels and plates on hand, even plastic forks and knives, and having something to heat canned foods up if you can. A lot of camping things, they have all types of little cans and things to help you warm the food up. And having some scissors in case you have to cut open 4 packages, having some plastic storage bags on hand, hand sanitizer and wipes. And these are just great ideas of things to have on hand. Does anyone have something they would add? We keep talking about entertainment. If you have children or even adults, you know, our minds start racing. Adult coloring books, you know, go ahead and get you some adult coloring books or different, what do you call those? Crossword puzzles, something just to take your mind off what's going on around you. You just don't know how it would help with your mental health, and just take your mind off. It just cause a calming for you.
Board games would be good too.
Yeah, board games. Yes, board games, because that's something the whole family can get involved in. Okay, and then you want to have all your food. Once you built your kit, you want to make sure that you store it in an airtight container. Make sure it's going to keep moisture in and insects out. And make sure that you're rotating your food. If you built your kit last year, then you need to go in and like, you know, check the dates. We know that Best Buy, Use By, Best of Use By, those are okay to eat those items. They're not, you know, they may not have the same crunch or the taste. They're safe to eat, but if it's past the expiration date, you don't want to eat anything past the expiration date. So make sure you get in the habit of rotating those foods. And also rotate your water. If you're going to buy the big cases of water and you continue to stack on top of stack, you know, the ones at the bottom, you may have bought last year. So make sure that you rotate your water. And if flooding is a concern, store your foods off the floor, store your container. And then you want to maintain the quality of your food supplies by, like I said, storing a cool, dry place inside the home and not the garage. Okay? Now I'm going to turn it over to my lovely co-worker, Laura. I know you're tired of hearing me talk, but we're going to turn it over to Laura. She has some great information for you.
All right, thank you, Sonja. So the next slide is using foods wisely during power outages. Here we go. There, okay, great. So we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, well, Sonja mentioned that those emergency foods that we should have on hand, but of course, when the power goes out, we're going to have foods in our refrigerators and freezers. So what is the best way to handle that and to keep ourselves safe? We certainly don't want to be eating contaminated food or drinking, you know, water that has bacteria in it. We don't want to get sick to add to our stress of the disaster that we're facing, right? So we need to know how to handle those things correctly. And so having a plan, like Sonja mentioned, always having a plan of what to do is going to help you reduce your stress and your worry and inconvenience about, you know, this whole situation. So what we're going to do is when your power goes out, you're going to have food in your refrigerator and your freezer. And so we're going to think a lot about temperatures. And for the purposes of this presentation, it's important to remember that a temperature above 40 degrees Fahrenheit is going to be what we call in the danger zone, where bacteria tend to grow at a very rapid rate, enough that it can contaminate our food. So what we're trying to do here is keeping our foods below that danger zone and under 40 degrees to keep them safe. So starting with our refrigerator. First of all, in advance and to prepare for hurricane or other, you know, situation like this, it's always good to keep an appliance thermometer in your refrigerator. And let's see, I have an example of one. I don't know if you can see this, but it's just a little refrigerator thermometer. It's got a hook on it. It hangs on your bars in the refrigerator. And it has a special, you know, the numbers that it will read is in that refrigerator zone and your freezer zone actually too. So it's real easy to, you know, keep this hanging in your fridge, take a quick look at it, and know very quickly if your fridge is below 40 degrees, where it's safe. A well-operating fridge should be somewhere between about 37 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit to stay out of that danger zone. So be prepared, have one of those in your refrigerator. You can pick these up at Walmart, at most grocery stores for a few dollars. Really great thing to have, because when that power goes off, you're going to want to kind of monitor the temperature in your refrigerator to be sure that it's not going above 40, so that you know your food is staying safe. So if when the power goes out, generally your food is going to stay at a safe temperature about 4 hours. So what you want to do is make sure you're not opening that fridge door much, and hopefully you don't have to open it at all for a while. So make a mental note or even jot it down of when the time that the power goes out. And you know, if you can hold off opening your refrigerator up, try to do that. If you have to open it, just do whatever you need to do in the fridge quickly and get that door shut again. So basically, if you don't open it, your foods and everything should stay safe for about 4 hours. And when that temperature in your refrigerator starts to get above that 40-degree mark, keep in mind that your foods are only going to be safe for about 2 hours after that point. Just like when we're talking about serving foods and cooking and, you know, having a meal, you don't want your foods to be at room temperature for more than 2 hours. That's kind of our cutoff of the foods being in that danger zone. So, so make sure that you're making a note of how long the foods might be above 40. If the temperatures do get above 40, you're going to have to, and for the 2 hours, if your foods get above that for the 2 hours, you're going to have to think about throwing away some of your foods just to be safe. So the things that are going to be the most susceptible will be your meats, your dairy products, your eggs, things that are very perishable. So, you know, unfortunately, those things are going to have to go if they've been in that danger zone for 2 hours. So just be mindful of that. There's a lot of things that will be okay, even if they've been in your refrigerator. But the things that are safer for even a few days, if they're not at that refrigerator temperature, would be like breads. You know, you might have some fresh fruits and veggies, not cut up fruits and vegetables, but things with their peels on, your butter, margarine, hard cheeses. These things are going to be okay at room temperature for a day or two, and that's fine. Be sure if there's any question about anything, if you don't know, you know, for sure how long it's been at that unsafe temperature, the best thing to do is to throw it out. We have a little saying that we say, when in doubt, throw it out. We don't want to risk getting a foodborne illness, and we do not recommend that you taste anything to see if it is bad, because you can't always tell anyway, and it's just not safe to do that. So we want to be sure that you're not doing that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about our freezers. Now, some of us might have a chest freezer, or you might have a freezer that is attached to your refrigerator. So there's some, you have some wiggle room here with your freezer. If it's a very full freezer, if you've got it really packed full of food, it is generally going to stay frozen and at a very safe temperature for 1 to 2 days.
Yes.
Some variation in that is if it is like, if it's a freezer in your garage where it's hot. That's probably not going to, you know, stay frozen for that long. If it's in your house where it's cooler, probably 1 to 2 days. If it's very full with things like meat, which is very thick and heavy, and it gets, you know, frozen very solid, those things are going to keep your freezer colder. However, if you have just lots of frozen vegetables or breads or things that are a little more porous or airy, they're not going to keep it as cold. So one of the things you can do with your freezer is, as soon as the power goes out, you can very quickly working in there, open up your freezer, group your meats and poultry together. This will keep them colder. It's a good idea to put your meats and poultry on like a cookie sheet or in some sort of a tray, and to put them in the lower part of your freezer. The reason for that is, if they do thaw, you don't want the meat juices dripping on your other foods. And also this just keeps them colder, just to group them together. So that's something that you can do. Just, you know, work very quickly so you're not leaving that door open to let that cold air out if you can help it. If your freezer is only about half full, if you just got a few things in there, it's not going to stay as cold. Generally about a day you'll have before that temperature starts rising. So again, kind of make note of the time the power went out, keep an eye on how long it's been. One other thing that you can prepare to do also, in preparation for this is kind of keep a list on the outside of your freezer. Just as you're putting things into your freezer, jot down on a list what you have in the freezer. This is helpful anyway, just on a daily basis to kind of know what you have in your freezer for meal prep information. But it really helps if you know what's in there, so that if you do want to try to avoid opening that door, you already know what's in there, so you don't have to be opening the door. So let me know if there's any questions, otherwise I'll keep moving on. Great, okay. Oh, go ahead.
When the power goes out, can't you transfer food from your refrigerator to your freezer?
Transfer from the refrigerator to the freezer?
Yeah.
You could do that, yes, because your freezer is going to definitely stay cooler for longer. So yeah, that's a great idea. If you have certain things that would be most perishable, like I mentioned, the meats and dairy products or milk, you could transfer them into your freezer. That should keep those things colder longer. Yes, for sure. That's a great idea.
All right.
Great. So now, after the power comes back on, you're going to want to kind of take an inventory of what has happened, take a look at those foods. So with your refrigerator, you're just going to hopefully have made a note of how long the power was out, so you'll know how long those things were possibly at an unsafe temperature. Check the thermometer in there and kind of go based off how long the power was out. With your freezer foods, take a look at your freezer foods and see if they still have ice crystals, or are they partially frozen. If they still have ice crystals in them, or they're still partially frozen, you can refreeze them, no problem at all. Most things are going to be just fine. The only things that might not be really great to refreeze would be like ice cream or frozen yogurt. And that's not really for safety, it's because they would tend to separate and get, lose their quality. So they might not be good, you might have to toss those out, but everything else should be all right to be refrozen. Now, if it's thawed in your freezer, the foods are thawed, but they're still below 40 degrees, then the things are still safe to eat. So you have an option there. The best thing to do is to, hopefully the power's back on now, pull those out, put them in your refrigerator, cook them as usual. They're going to be just fine because they were never above that 40-degree temperature. So theoretically, they should be safe. However, if your frozen foods are completely thawed and you know that they've been above 40 degrees for that 2 hours or more, those things are probably going to have to be thrown out. Again, your meats, your more perishable things, your dairy, things like that, because you just don't want to take that chance on, getting a foodborne illness. So are there any questions?
Would you recommend dry ice ahead of time and just to help preserve it for a while longer?
Dry ice is an option. Some people do use that. We don't recommend it because dry ice actually has a correct way to use it. You have to know what you're doing. And you would have to buy it very quickly before the storm hits or before the power outages, because it doesn't last very long in your regular fridge or freezer. It does tend to, it kind of evaporates, it sublimates is what it's called. So it goes away pretty quickly. It is an option. There's just some precautions with it too, where you can't touch it with your skin because it could freeze your skin very quickly. So we don't recommend it, but if you really know what you're doing or you do some research, that would be an option for you to keep your foods cold. So that's a great point. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I have a magnetic temperature monitor in my refrigerator.
Yeah.
And it was given to us through Better Living for Texas.
Yeah.
So if you want to, if everybody wants to jot that down, either I put it in the chat, but they issued us little magnetic temperature gauges, and you just put it in there, and it tells you the correct temperature for your refrigerator and other things. But I'll put it in the chat. It's Better Living for Texas.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's probably from a program that we gave in the past, and we give out those little interior refrigerator thermometers. They're magnetic. They stick right in your fridge, and they do work pretty good, is what I've heard. So thank you for mentioning that.
It's really funny that you said that, because Lora is a Better Living for Texans agent. So Lora, you got your own personal, you and Christina got your own personal plug this morning.
That's great. Yeah, thank you so much.
Y'all wrong for that.
How about comment? When your power goes out, can't you store refrigerated food in your ice chest?
So transferring your refrigerator food to your ice chest or your cooler?
Yes.
Yeah, you sure could. If you have ice and you can put some foods in an ice chest, make sure that there is some ice in there to keep them cool. And then it's always a good idea to have a thermometer in your cooler or your ice chest as well. So you, again, know that everything is staying below 40. But that's definitely an option. A nice, well-insulated ice chest should work really well.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking if I did that, I need a thermometer.
Yes, thermometers are key, really. It's really about keeping those foods 40 degrees or below to just know that they're safe. And by the way, I'm just going to mention too that Susan has links to some really great documents that we have that kind of puts all this information together, and it gives you a list of what to do with certain foods. So Susan, if you could please put that in the chat, that would be wonderful. All right, great. Any other questions?
And if I think if we have everyone's email address, we will share this presentation with you, as well as all of those additional handouts that will help you be prepared during this time of year.
Great. Okay. Well, so just to summarize kind of what we talked about is, so always, planning ahead is key here. Having a plan, preparing in advance is just going to really help you alleviate some of that stress and worry before that emergency or disaster strikes. Getting your emergency food and water together, knowing what to do when power goes out, just really important. So that's great that you're attending this session and you're getting ready. Remember that you can't tell if your food is safe by looking at it or smelling it. So, we don't recommend that you taste it. You can't tell, so be safe and just, when in doubt, throw it out. And you just don't want to be getting that risk of foodborne illness. One thing that can really make a terrible situation even worse is to be sick during that, especially if the power is still out. Maybe you don't have as easy access to a doctor's office or something like that during an emergency situation. So you really don't want to be getting sick. So again, I'll just reiterate. So when in doubt, throw it out when it comes to food safety.
Okay, hope everyone enjoyed the class today. Want to thank Mary for joining us. She joined us this week, and I just put her to work real fast, and I thank her. I want you all to please tune in to our next session. Will be June 23rd. And like I said, she has a really good presentation on things that you can do now as far as getting your documents, putting those in a place where they can be easily accessible, having all of your documents in one place, and also taking photos, a home inventory of what's in the home. You can never be too prepared. I want to stress that. And I also want you to remember to have your family plan. A disaster kit is great, but having your family plan, an escape route, a meeting place, and your family communication plan, have all of the, practice that right now with your family. And so we have the 23rd that we're going to have Ms. I can't remember her name, but she's going to have all of that information. And then on the 30th, we're going to do it, have this outside. We're going to do an actual grilling presentation. So it's not going to be us using a PowerPoint, but we're going to be outside actually doing some grilling. So Shannon is going to show you how to build a fire, you know, how to clean your grill and all of that. So it's going to be fun. And don't forget, if you are interested in the mental health first aid training for youth, we know that this pandemic and everything, life, kids not being able to go to school, it has been stressful. So we have a free mental health first aid training for youth, and that's for adults who work with youth on June 22nd. And we have mental health first aid training for adults on the 23rd. You can take either or. And we'll include that flyer when we send this out. As long as we have your email address, we will send you the information. If we don't have your email address, I don't know how you found out about the training today, but maybe the person who shared the information with you will share who shared the link with you will also share that information. We really enjoyed you today. All of the dialogue, it's good to see faces, and we can't wait until we can get back out. So, and if you're interested in the Better Living for Texans programs, Laura, they are going out to senior groups, adult groups, and they're doing face-to-face classes, and you can get your free thermometers. So if you are interested, definitely contact our office. They like to have a group of at least 10, no smaller than 10. So if you all can come together for 3 to 4 classes, they would love to come out and see you. We are in Harris County. I think some of you are in Fort Bend County. They can't cross county lines, but you can cross county lines. So we really enjoyed seeing you all today, and we will see you on the 23rd. And thank you all so much. See you on the 23rd.
Bye-bye. Okay.
Or were there any questions I didn't ask? Edna, did you want to share? I know before the class you shared some information. Did you want to talk about when your family lost power for 8 days, or are you good?
Well, you covered a lot of it, but I did say that we did have those rain barrels, and then the power. We had no power and no water, so it was really bad. But having those things beforehand, like in your pantry, I went ahead and pre-cooked some of that meat that was in the freezer, so we could have some meals already, ready. I knew we were going to lose power over here, but the water was something else. I mean, I'm glad we have the rain barrels, and I don't know. It was I've never been so cold in my life. Yeah. not even my trip to Alaska. I don't even think I was that cold over there.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, and I appreciate you being so faithful. Always see your name and your face.
Yes, I enjoy it.
Great.
And you guys do a great job. I'm looking forward to opening our doors at HEC, so you can come out there and I'll invite everyone to come, and we can have some sessions.
Love it. Looking forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edna. Thanks everyone for participating today virtually, sending you all virtual hugs, and we will see you on the 23rd. Take care. Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.